This is section 3.3, day 1, solving inequalities by multiplying or dividing. Our objective today is to solve inequalities by multiplying or dividing. Let's start with our vocab. Let's zoom in a little bit. The division property of inequalities says that if you divide each side of an inequality by the same positive number, the direction of the inequality symbol remains unchanged. So, our examples, 9 is greater than 6, so 9 divided by 3 is greater than 6 divided by 3. 15 is less than 20, so 15 divided by 5 is less than 20 divided by 5. Also within the division property of inequality, if you divide each side of an inequality by the same negative number, the direction of the inequality symbol is reversed. So since 16 is greater than 12, 16 divided by negative 4 is less than 12 divided by negative 4. And since 10 is less than 18, 10 divided by negative 2 is greater than 18 divided by negative 2. So you have to be careful when you divide by a negative, you have to flip the inequality symbol. The multiplication property of inequality says that if you multiply each side of an inequality by the same positive number, the direction of the inequality symbol remains unchanged. For example, since 12 is greater than 8, 12 times 2 is greater than 8 times 2. And since 3 is less than 6, 3 times 4 is less than 6 times 4. Also within the multiplication property of inequality, if you multiply each side of an inequality by the same negative number, the direction of the inequality symbol is reversed. So we know 6 is greater than 2. So 6 times negative 3 is now less than 2 times negative 3. And we know 3 is less than 5, so 3 times negative 2 is greater than 5 times negative 2. So we are going to solve and graph some inequalities. 4x is less than or equal to 16. Just like with equations, 4 times x, we undo that by dividing both sides by 4. We get x is less than or equal to 4. I make a filled-in circle at 4, and my arrow goes to the left. For the second one, 2x is greater than negative 26. I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I get my x and my negative 13. The inequality symbol stays the same because I divided by positive 2. So let's consider this negative 10 here in the middle. This will be negative 15 and negative 20 and negative 5 and 0 right here. So at negative 13, I make an open circle and my arrow goes to the right. Now we're going to solve and graph these two. X divided by 8 is less than negative 3. To get rid of divided, I multiply both sides by 8. So I get x is less than negative 24. Let's call this negative 20. Be negative 25, and negative 30, negative 15, oops, and negative 10. So at negative 24, I make an open circle, and my arrow goes to the left. M divided by 4 is greater than or equal to 12. I'll multiply both sides by 4. So I get m is greater than or equal to 48. Let's call the middle here 50, 40, 45, 55, and 60. So at 48, I make a filled-in circle. My arrow goes to the right. All right, when we're multiplying and dividing negatives, when we're solving inequalities, if the number being multiplied or divided on both sides is negative, you must turn the inequality sign around. So a less than becomes a greater than, and a greater than becomes a less than. Let's try a couple. 3y is less than or equal to negative 27. Sorry, negative 3y is less than or equal to negative 27. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. So I get a y and a positive 9. Since I divided both sides by negative 3, I flip my inequality symbol around. So at 9, I make a filled-in dot, and my arrow goes to the right now. Negative 4p is less than 36. Divide both sides by negative 4. I get a p and a negative 9. Since I divided by negative 4, I flip my inequality to a greater than. So at negative 9, I make an open circle, and my graph goes to the right. And negative 1.8 m is greater than or equal to negative 5.4. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1.8. I get an m at a positive 3. Since I divided both sides by a negative, I flip my inequality around. So at 3, I fill in my circle, and my arrow goes to the left. And now let's try these three. Negative 8x is less than or equal to 32. Well, to get rid of the negative 8, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 8. I get an x and a negative 4. And since I divided by a negative, I flip my inequality around. So at negative 4, I make a filled-in circle, and my arrow goes to the right. 4x is greater than negative 12. To solve for x, I need to divide both sides by 4. I get an x and a negative 3. Did I divide both sides by a negative? I didn't. That was a positive 4. So my inequality stays the same. So at negative 3, I get an open circle, and my arrow to the right. Y divided by negative 8 is greater than or equal to 2. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 8 now. I get a y and a negative 16. I multiplied by negative 8, so I flip my inequality around. Let's call this negative 10, negative 15, negative 20, negative 5, 0. So at negative 16, I get a filled-in circle, and my arrow goes to the left. All right, I want you to try these two on your own. All right, for x is less than, or x over 2 is less than negative 7. You multiply both sides by 2. You get x is less than negative 14. Let's call this negative 10, negative 15, negative 20, negative 5, and 0. At negative 14, I have an open circle, and my arrow to the right. For m divided by negative 12 is greater than or equal to 5, I multiply both sides by negative 12. This time I do flip my inequality, and I get negative 60. M is less than or equal to negative 60. Let's call this negative 60, negative 70, negative 50, and negative 60. I fill in my circle, and my arrow goes to the left. And now 4 more for you to try and graph. All right, for the first one, we'll multiply both sides by negative 15. We'll get x is greater than negative 15. For my number line, I put negative 15 in the middle. I get an open circle at negative 15 and my arrow to the right. The second one, I'll divide both sides by 13. I'll get m is greater than or equal to negative 3. Make my number line. I get a filled-in circle at negative 3, arrow to the right. For negative 11x is greater than 77. Divide both sides by negative 11. You get x is less than negative 7. Draw our number line. Get an open circle at negative 7, arrow to the left. And x over 8 is less than 5. Multiply both sides by 8. I get x is less than 40. Make my number line. I get an open circle at 40, and my arrow goes to the left. All right, your assignment.